I gotta be honest. I thought this episode was going to take place in a bakery. The doctor's got cakes, baby. Cake. Woo, woo. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Bite Of. I'm Derek, that's Noah, and we're talking about Doctor Who Season 2, Episode 3. We're saying it too much at the top of an episode, so
You're saying it.
But then you say it, and then I say it again.
You don't know what I'm going to say.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
We're talking about Doctor Who, Season 2, Episode 3.
Yeah.
The Well. This one, highly anticipated, just because of rumors, So we got a lot to talk about with this one. Were the rumors right? Is it true? Make sure you're following us. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're commenting. Make sure you're doing reviews. We're making you work here.
Work.
But it's all amazing things because the more you do that, the more our show gets shown to other people that might like the show.
Just helping a little indie LGBTQ podcast. No big deal. It's all good. In this climate, you better.
Okay, spoilers ahead for Doctor Who, The Well. Go watch it, please. And maybe watch an episode from Season 4, Episode 10. Might help.
Just look at the tight costuming in this episode. So tight. Let us officially take a bite of Doctor Who Season 2, Episode 3, The Well, written by Russell T. Davies and Sharma Angel Walfall, and directed by Amanda Brochi. The Doctor and Belinda suit up and skydive with a team of troopers landing on a deserted planet. The heartbeat of a sole survivor is discovered, but something lurks just behind their back. When the clock strikes midnight, something seems all too familiar.
Ooh, familiar.
Can you believe it? So what are your general thoughts, Mr. Noah?
I dare to say it's probably one of my favorite episodes of Doctor Who in a long time. I think it actually has knocked out some of my favorites from Nshuti's first season, being The Devil's Cord and 73 yards. I was trying to think of what the unit of measurement was. I would say it's like now on top of my favorite for Nshuti. And that's mostly because I just think the acting and the building of paranoia and fear, it's like a pressure cooker of all of that, was so well done, coupled with the music, the costuming, which we already mentioned, which is dangerous and sexy and probably the best spacesuits in recent memory. I think it's a very good episode of Doctor Who. And sometimes whenever I see episodes like this, I'm like, if we could just always be running on all of these cylinders all the time, I know it's impossible, right? But like, it would just make Doctor Who like just so much better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand. I mean, at first I want to say I'm sorry for putting my male gaze on Nshuti, but but they were like doing back shots of him. Like even some of his reactions, like nobody was turning, like everybody was fully turning around except for him.
Can you rephrase that? Because I think using back shots is even worse.
I think that was perfect.
No. Made it 10 times worse.
What? He looked great.
I mean, there's no apology. There's whoever I meant to look up the costume designer. I didn't. Whoever the costume designer was like, you know what? Let's make sure everybody looks hot.
Yeah.
This entire cast, even that's a little small, everybody was very attractive.
This was
episode.
A sexy group of troopers, that's for sure. But altogether, back to the actual episode, I agree with you. I think some of my kind of issues with some of the latest episodes, this diminished all that. This took those things and corrected it. This felt like a very, sorry to use this word again, tight episode, right? Everything, there was a linear plot point. There were some mysteries dropped in there. I think that the emotional beats were, we got them on a fair way. It felt natural. Whereas sometimes it feels a little forced to me. Sometimes the storyline feels a little muddled. This one was super tight, super to the point, and I felt like we could follow it the whole time. It wasn't really muddled by any side stories or anything that we were kind of introduced to things last minute. Like this was a really great, intense episode.
I think this is a good example of, even though it is essentially a sequel to an episode that happened years prior, with another face and everything. Sometimes with Doctor Who, they like to introduce this sci-fi concept, this alien concept, and then over-explain it almost, or be like, just so you know, like, this is how it works. Where it's like, I think we need to give some grace to the audience that we're a little smarter. Like, if we're this deep into Doctor Who, I think we can figure it out, right? And what this episode did was show that you don't need to handhold and you just need to tell the story. And I'm not saying Doctor Who does that a lot. I'm just more, I guess I should broadly say sci-fi can tend to do that. Where it's like, we got it. Like, just show us the story and then we'll figure it out, right? And this one did a good job of like, just we're figuring it out as our characters are figuring it out, but we're in the dark just as much as they are. And with an episode like this sci-fi horror, it works so well.
Yeah. And it's funny because when this episode started, I was nervous because I thought that they were going to do that hand-holding thing because there's kind of the over-explanation of how they can't get back to Earth 2025. And, you know, Belinda being like, are we going to change clothes? And it's like, oh, we're doing this again. You know, we're doing the same beat from the last episode. But then when we get into it, it really kind of lost that. And I also liked that we got those very classic Who things, right? Of him showing his blank badge, you know, of him using the sonic screwdriver.
Psychic paper.
Sorry, everyone. Sorry. The comments are going wild. But, you know, and there was no explanation of it. It just happened. Everybody kind of saw what they needed to see and it just worked.
Their choice of using toxic in an unironic way was a choice. This is my biggest critique of this episode because toxic has been played before, but more of like mocking. So in this way, I was like, weird choice.
And again, it was something about that first scene, right? Out of this whole episode, which was really great, that first scene was the only kind of hiccup for me.
Well, I liked the first scene. It did feel a little like, okay, we got to get the episode started, right? Because we pick up right from the last episode and Belinda and the doctor are talking and she's like, are my parents there? Like, if Earth doesn't exist, like, what are we talking about? Like, and he comforts her and is like, I'm going to make your dad laugh. You know, I'm going to meet your parents. It's going to be fine. So we have that moment of like, okay, like, let's just try to figure it out. I know it's scary, but let's figure it out. And then it does kind of get to that campy, albeit that I don't know if it hit well, but I do like them changing it to different outfits. Yes. And I like that the TARDIS was like, I know exactly the space outfits that these troopers have. So here you go.
100%. The TARDIS always knows what it's doing, you know? Yeah. But I do. And another point that's kind of interesting about this season is that these first 3 episodes are back to back, right? There's no adventure in between. It's literally picking up where the last one left off.
I like how there's 2 things so far, and this is on us, or mostly on me. And I was saying, you know, there's episodes in between. There's journeys in between these things. We don't see them. We're seeing the relationship in real time. Another thing that when you said, what do you think about the Vindicator? I was like, it's fine. It's one of those things that's just going to go away, not going to come back. It seems like it's going to be a big part.
It's the major plot point of the season. And, you know, something that I noticed in this episode was that kind of looks like a guitar.
Yeah.
Right?
Music.
So there's still that music thing. And even, again, Belinda brings up that it's Friday night. My parents are at the pub. My dad is going to sing. So, you know, we still have that theme of music running through this season.
Well, it's entertainment, you know?
And then Toxic by Britney Spears.
Yeah. I think we're still, as the season goes on, I think we'll start getting a clearer picture of what's going on. Right now, I think the mystery of Earth not existing, and we find out that these people that are on this mission as well have never heard of Earth or humans. So it's just adding to that mystery. But I like that was really the only thing outside of this episode that we got. Everything was self-contained into this. And that brings me to the comparisons with Midnight, right? So this is very much a sequel. And I put like sequel only in that it takes place in literally the same planet, hundreds of thousands of years in the future. Midnight is considered and is one of my favorite top 5 episodes of Doctor Who ever. It's just so well done. It's one of those, like, I believe it was like almost a last minute addition to David Tennant's last season on Doctor Who. And it turned out to be one of the best ones. That episode did a really good job of showing how much paranoia and fear a group of people can have and how that changes humans. how the best types of humans, that assistant in Midnight, turned even on the doctor and was like, let's get rid of him. So that's what that episode did really well. And I think this episode did the same thing. While there was, I would say these are like military people, right? So they're a little more hardened and they're a little more like, I will do what you tell me to do. I still think showing that fear and not really knowing what's happening can change people.
Yeah. I thought that that sense of paranoia was definitely palpable in both of these episodes. And, as I was watching Midnight, I had seen it for the first time. One of the things that really stuck out to me was how, first of all, it all takes place in just this one vehicle, right? Which that's great writing when you can make that much paranoia and that much happen for 40 something minutes in one set piece.
And nonstop.
Right. And so that's really fantastic. So that was written by Russell T Davies. This is also written as a co-writer by Russell T Davies. But something that stuck out to me at Midnight was that there was this kind of power play that I saw towards the end of the episode where it felt very much like how angry white people can stir an entire movement of paranoia against one person, and the people of color need to struggle to try and regain control and stop them from doing that. And in this one, it felt a little more like that paranoia again, but there was that power dynamic. It felt more like between almost like men and women, right? Of like when we have this kind of second in command character, Cassio, who automatically keeps pushing against their captain, who was really fantastic. You know what I mean? They were incredible. Their name, Shia, I believe, was the name of the character. And so again, we see this power struggle. We see this dynamic. We see this reflection of kind of what we see in society. And I think both episodes did that well, but in different ways. In this one, it's definitely a little more intense. The set is a lot bigger. There's a lot more people at play here. And there's a bigger mystery, I feel. We're walking into the mystery, whereas in the other one, the mystery, we kind of are along for the ride with the characters.
Yeah, Mrs. Sylvester and Midnight was very much the subject of paranoia and the person that was repeating. And I loved that whole sequence. And then the repeating caught up, and then it was taking the voice. In this one, we got to see a different side of the entity, if that even is the same entity, right? We don't necessarily know. It could be, it could not be. It's been hundreds of years. Are we supposed to assume it's the same entity? Probably. But this one more played on, I can't really see what's there. I know there's something there behind you. And then as soon as you go to try to perceive it, it kills you automatically. Mm-hmm. I don't know how it kills you. It just like crushes you and throws you in the air. Terrifying. But if this is a clock face, you die at midnight. I think that it was just such clever writing to be like just calling back to the name of the planet.
Yeah.
If we're gonna say like if you ever try to perceive somebody from behind, and shoot you with that booty, it's a killer. All right, enough with Nshuti's booty.
All right, but I couldn't stop staring at it. There, I said it. I couldn't stop staring at it. It was beautiful. It was glorious. He's just working it.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. I think there's also a comparison for these two episodes of kind of like childhood games, right? It feels like in Midnight, it feels very much like when someone's parroting you, whereas in this one, it's almost like a red light, green light thing. Like if you get caught at the wrong time, then you're out. You're going to die. One of the things I also liked, so I actually watched The Well before I watched Midnight.
As soon as we saw it, I said, Derek, you need to watch Midnight.
Absolutely. And so there was that point in this episode where the doctor is talking, he's very close to Alyss, and Alyss, there's a close up of his face and his eyes are really wide and he starts to cry. It's when he realizes who he's dealing with. And that is such a callback to Midnight, where the doctor is stuck in that crouch. He's absolutely frozen and his eyes are so wide. It's like you can see that he's losing control of who he is, but on the inside, he knows what's going on.
What's so terrifying about this specific entity with Midnight is that it was one of the few creatures, entities, whatever, to defeat the doctor. The doctor didn't even beat this entity twice. Both times people had to sacrifice themselves and the doctor got out of it. And so that's what is so scary about this. And that's why when the doctor found out that the surface was made out of diamonds, what was this planet called? Midnight. That's why he got so scared and ran back to where Alyss was. And I think very few creatures or entities have the honor, I guess, of saying, I could beat the doctor and I know the doctor's name. So this is why it's so scary, because we also know nothing about this entity. And I was really worried. I did hear rumors that this was going to be a Midnight sequel. There was rumors that it might be a Waters of Mars sequel. And I was like, okay, those are some big episodes to fill. And that worried me because I don't think Midnight needed a sequel. This is the best we can come to for a sequel for something like that, because we still don't know anything. And I'm very happy about that.
And it feels like more of a companion episode rather than a sequel, right? It's not the same storyline. It's just taking place on the same planet. And I think, like you're saying, that was a good choice, right? Especially if an episode is so beloved. Let's not mar it up by trying to change the storyline or continue it.
Yeah, and that episode was so well perceived that I believe it was made into a limited stage run. So
that's cool.
All people just in the same thing, because it's such a small cast and it's really just the people that are driving the plot and the paranoia. Okay, on the subject of Alyss, which I think absolutely breakout performance, an all-timer for a guest appearance performance by this actor. The use of assistive technology, so freaking cool. Leave it to Doctor Who, especially in this new revival run with Russell D Davies, to have more, I guess, assistive technology, but also including people with impairments or disabilities. I really loved the use of just a real-time caption device. Why don't we have that now?
I know. Well, there is some technology being developed, more like glasses and things that can do that, which is just incredible. And I mean, just think of how communication can change and how travel can change and how inclusive we could be if something like that did exist. And if we were all willing to have something like that, which whatever. Anyway, and I think that there's also a point being made here where they turn it off when they don't want Alyss to know what they're saying. And so they are choosing to exclude her from the conversation. And granted, it happens because they're trying to figure out what's going on. They don't know if she's truly trustworthy. But in reality, there is just something being said here about how we include and exclude people with disabilities in our lives and society and conversations.
And on purpose.
And on purpose, exactly, because it's too much trouble, quote unquote, to wear something on you that could help, I also like that in this episode, we see someone with a limb difference. One of our troopers has a limb difference, which is really incredible. I mean, just all around, this episode just shows how well Doctor Who is inclusive, just how good it is at inclusivity.
Yeah. I don't know why this is such a funny coincidence, but the actor that played Alyss is named Rose. Their real name is Rose, which just goes back to, this is David Tennant's era, the sequel, which also had to do with Rose, and she does make an appearance on a TV screen behind him. And I don't know, it's just such a weird coincidence that only Doctor Who could have.
Absolutely. What did you think of, so I'm kind of going back and forth on this, right? One of the reasons that it seems that Alyss has survived is because of her deafness. And so it's oh, well, you can't hear it. But I was kind of hoping that in a way it wasn't going to be the thing that saved her. It was just going to be a part of her, but then it became part of the plot. What did you think of that?
I don't know if that's necessarily true, though, because, I mean, okay, it's behind you, right? It latches on. This is a little different than what we saw in Midnight. In Midnight, kind of just possessed, and this one, it just more latched on. I don't know if that's evolution or just what it really does, but I think the doctor had said, and I could be wrong, he said that might be how you survived because you're just not hearing it. But I don't know if just hearing it really does anything to you. You know what I mean? Because regardless, if you go behind and you try to perceive the monster, you're dead anyway. So I think that's just added to maybe that's why she didn't lose her mind almost, because it was whispering to her. I hope, right, that's how I read it, because I was oh, I don't think they really made it her deafness saved her, but that's also not a bad thing, I guess, in that light. It's oh, yeah, because she happened to be deaf, it did end up helping her. I did like the added effect of, the reflection, right? It didn't want to see its own reflection because that would defeat itself. Using the Mercury waterfall, oh, that just looks so cool. This whole set, just everything, the visual effects, really just peak. And I think when you have this big budget like this and you have performance like this, oh, the performances just shine. so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think sorry, I didn't mean to like segue from that, but I think her deafness I don't think it was used as like a plot device. I think it just added to the story.
All right. That's fair. I appreciate that. But yeah, I agree that Mercury waterfall was so cool. And again, this is something that they did with a lighter hand than they do sometimes, learning that Shia is an amazing shot, right? It kind of just happened in the scene before, and then the doctor realized it. It wasn't like, oh, you were an incredible marks person. It wasn't like over-explained in any way. It was something that happened, and then it was used to, defeat the monster.
Yeah, so before we get to like kind of like the end of the episode or wrapping up our review, there's two scenes in particular that I really want to talk about that I think really stand out. While I like the clock facing scene, which I'm going to say is when everybody was in that room in a circle, and I loved when the entity was killing them, that they were placing them as numbers on the clock, which just, it's just so cool. But there's two scenes that I think were so, so, so good is when they're going to the escape pods or going to the things that get them back up there. And the entity possesses them again, right? So you have Alyss and the two other troopers that go, right? And then you have the doctor, you have Mo, you have Belinda, and you have Shia. And the entity comes back and possesses one of them. The amount of fear and trying to figure out who is possessed in that scene, and then it ended up being Belinda. Then Shia had to use her shots to shoot Belinda. And then they had to revive her. And then Shia sacrifices herself. In this scene, do you think, because we find out that Mo possibly, I don't know if it's just because they're paranoid, actually was the one possessed. Do you think that Belinda was shot for no reason and Shia sacrificed herself for no reason?
Absolutely, 100% I do. Absolutely, I do. Yeah, that was definitely a bummer because Shia I really warmed up to Shia. I really liked them. I thought they were a fantastic leader. I thought that they were smart, level-headed, and to see them sacrifice themselves, it felt like, okay, it's a poetic way to go out, but for it to be for naught, that was a bummer. I think Belinda had to be shot in order for Shia to then be, what are we saying, inhabited, latched on by,
whatever you want to use,
grabbed on by the entity. So that made sense. But I think that Shia definitely sacrificed himself in vain. Unfortunately,
I'm curious if I want to believe that Belinda was latched onto, possessed in the beginning, but I think when it showed the wind go across Shia's face, I think then it went to Mo just to mess with them. Like I'm not sure that Shia ever was actually possessed. I think it just went straight to Mo. And that I just think that might be this entity is smarter than we believe. I mean, it knows the doctor's name.
Yeah.
It's been inside the doctor's head. So I don't think it's dumb. I just, that's just like peak Doctor Who of just that devastating, like, oh no, like that sucks.
Well, at least Shia doesn't know the truth, right? And their sacrifice, they believe they did it and solved the issue and saved everyone. So there's that poetic justice. But that scene with the
poetic justice,
that scene with the four of them in kind of like the escape pod room is again felt like a callback to Midnight, right? It's a smaller encapsulated space. Something is in there with them and they're trying to figure out what's going on. But yeah, that was a bummer when Belinda got shot.
Yeah. I mean, yikes. Having her get shot. She was shot. She looked like she was hurt.
I did like that in this episode, we saw Belinda. Belinda's a nurse, right? And loves being a nurse and loves caring for people. And we saw her step into action. I like that she's not a fearful companion, that she's willing to get in there and help people. This is the second time we've seen her do this. We saw her do it in the first episode and now in this episode as well.
Yeah, I love the tension of that entire scene. The doctor's with the leaders and stuff and trying to figure out the well. And then Belinda's there trying to care for this person while also being paranoid and seeing something, but not really seeing something. And like trying to figure out this alien technology or this alien medicine, but also being confused by nobody knows what Earth is. So there was just a lot of moving parts here. And I think Varada Sethu did such an amazing job of balancing all of that.
Absolutely.
I will say, so there was something, I went back to look at it. I'm more convinced that the entity went back up with the first people. Because when you look at the thing that says how many people are in the thing, because it only says 6 people can be in it at a time, it says 4. but there was only 3 of them that we could see.
Interesting.
I think it was still attached to maybe Alyssa.
Wow.
Yeah. And now, so it's just on the ship. So that leaves it up to just, it's still there. So we either have the potential for a sequel or, I don't know, it's just out there.
And is there something to be said that maybe there's more than one entity?
We don't know anything about this.
Yeah.
Is it a Pantheon member? Was it trapped there in the diamonds for a reason? I don't know. Who knows?
Does it crawl on all fours? Is it bipedal? I don't know. It was kind of like creeping around a corner. You know, they just gave you glimpses. Of it.
The thing about it, though, is like they gave you glimpses of something.
Mm.
You couldn't make it out. You know, we got that very brief shadowy thing, which I think is the most we've ever seen of this entity. But like, it was so frustrating because when you saw it behind Alyssa, it was like your brain it was too fast. Like I was like, there was something.
It was kind of funny, right? That it would kind of just be like, hi, ooh, and then it would disappear again. Like it was like, it was like playing with everyone. It's like, I'm here.
Yeah.
You can't do anything. It's just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Why is it showing itself so much?
Yeah.
I think I might have, you said you had 2 scenes you wanted to talk about.
I kind of talked about them both in the same time.
Okay.
It was then Mo up in the ship and having that conversation with the other person that was on their team. Because we didn't really see anything behind Mo. And I'm more convinced that maybe it's still attached to Alyssa, which is really sad because she has a daughter and she just wants to get back home.
Oh, Alyss.
Alyss. Am I saying Alyssa?
Yes.
You guys know what I'm talking about. Sorry. Alyss. And, you know, it might still be attached to her, but I think the paranoia just continued with them and they're just fearful of it, which is another layer of just kind of,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But this episode wouldn't be complete without Mrs. Flood appearance. What? And she's after the Vindicator, or she wants to know more about it. She said, that's what I feared. So what?
And this felt more like Susan Twist in the way that like, she's not just Mrs. Flood kind of appearing in places. She's taking on, it's almost like she has her own TARDIS, right? Where she can change her clothes and be a part of the group that's there because she kind of looked like she was from the 50s in Miami. And now she had a uniform on when Mo was talking to her. So that's interesting.
Right. I mean, yeah, I have no idea. She can time travel with them. She's always there either in the beginning or the end of their episode or their story. So that's weird. And she does seem like a Susan Twist. Like now that you say that, that is kind of interesting that now she's kind of taken the place of Susan Twist because Mrs. Flood didn't do that in the first season. She didn't really appear in places like that. She was always with Ruby's apartment around there. So she wasn't necessarily anywhere else aside from the end of the season. She was on the rooftop in the all white. So it is weird. It was almost like they liked the Susan Twist thing and was like, okay, let's make Mrs. Flood kind of take that.
Right. But I think the difference is that the Susan Twist character was more of like a Belinda in the sense that she just kind of existed in these different timelines. Whereas this seems like Mrs. Flood is following them and keeping track of them and knows exactly what's going on.
Right. It is Mrs. Flood. It's not multiple different Susans. You know? Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, there's so many theories that it could be whoever it is. I don't know. At this point, I just want to wait and see.
Yeah. So, I mean, the question is, what is Russell T Davies saying about old women?
That they can act and they deserve a job, you know?
No, he's saying that they're going to take over the world and bring us all down.
Yeah, sure. That's if Mrs. Flood is actually bad. We still don't know. She's not really done anything bad.
I don't know. I don't trust her.
She's just commentating while she's doing.
All right. Maybe she's a scorned companion.
Maybe.
Right?
She could be. Or she's the doctor's granddaughter.
Oh my God.
We still never got anything off of that. They were right there. I don't know. It's too convenient still.
Mysteries abound.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, let us know what you thought of The Well. Was it everything you hoped for? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did it hit? Did it not hit? Would you wear one of those space outfits? I know I would. Ooh. Just to feel nice, just to feel pretty. Yeah. All right. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.